Okay, imagine you're sitting in a movie theater back then. The credits are rolling on, what felt like a pretty complete blockbuster. And then, boom, a scene.
Mm-hmm.
A quiet scene, actually.
Mm.
Almost an audacious gamble after the credits, promising something totally new, a bigger universe.
Right.
It wasn't some big explosion-changing cinema history. It was just a conversation.
And that specific moment, 2008, right after Iron Man, our sources really zero in on that as the absolute cornerstone of a revolution.
Yeah.
It introduced Nick Fury, the whole Avenger Initiative thing, and it basically signaled Marvel Studios' huge ambition to build something on screen that, frankly, no one had really pulled off before.
And that really is our deep dive today. We're going to unpack how Marvel Studios, with its first phase 1, didn't just make superhero movies.
Right.
They fundamentally shook up blockbuster filmmaking by creating the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU.
Yeah.
We pulled together a whole stack of sources that really peel back the layers on this groundbreaking time. Our mission here is to kind of uncover the strategy, the meticulous planning behind Marvel's success, how it totally redefined superhero stories, and why, let's be honest, we're all still living in the cinematic world it built.
I love that, right.
We're going to trace that first bold promise and see how they systematically delivered on it, film by film.
So when Marvel first kind of stepped onto the scene, the superhero genre wasn't exactly empty, was it?
No, not at all.
You had Christopher Nolan's Batman films, The Dark Knight had just landed like a bomb, right? Redefining things with that dark, gritty realism, tackling complex moral, even socio-political themes.
Absolutely. And then there was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah, which had perfected that modern superhero origin story, really earnest, character-driven, showing the personal cost of being a hero.
And you can't forget Bryan Singer's X-Men films. They'd already pioneered the whole superhero team-up idea.
Mm-hmm. Using that mutant metaphor for discrimination, social acceptance, all within its own sort of shared universe, but self-contained.
Right. So those are the giants Marvel was basically squaring up against. So when Marvel arrived with what, let's face it, a lot of people saw as B-list characters, Iron Man, Thor, they couldn't just try to, out-Nolan. It wouldn't work.
Exactly right. And Kevin Feige's strategic move, this counter-programming, was just a masterstroke, according to our sources.
Yeah.
Instead of chasing that dark grit, they went for a character-first approach in Iron Man. It was funny, it was grounded, but definitely not gritty.
Okay.
And this wasn't just, a creative whim, it was a really sharp market calculation. It let them carve out their own unique space.
Right, find their niche.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really insightful, looking back through these sources, is how that flexible, kind of humor-laced tone became the key.
Yeah.
The solvent, as one source puts it, for the whole universe's long-term narrative elasticity.
The solvent. Okay, explain that.
Well, think about it. Instead of being locked into one strict genre, Marvel set up this foundational emotional reality. Relatable characters, real stakes, And the humor just softened the edges, making all the crazy stuff, gods, aliens, super soldiers, digestible. It wasn't about ignoring logic, but establishing a consistent internal logic that was just incredibly broad.
Ah, okay. So it allowed Thor, the space god, to exist alongside Captain America, the World War II guy.
Precisely. And with Tony Stark, the billionaire futurist. All without shattering that shared reality. That flexibility was baked in from the start with Iron Man's tone.
That makes a lot of sense. The solvent that kind of bonded it all. So, okay, let's dive into that cornerstone. Iron Man, 2008. The MCU didn't kick off with, a Boy Scout hero, did it?
No, definitely not.
It started with Tony Stark, who some people have called a likable asshole. How critical was that choice in getting Robert Downey Jr. for setting the whole tone?
Oh, absolutely vital. Stark was such a deliberate swing away from the morally pure heroes we were used to.
Yeah.
Here's this narcissistic arms dealer, right? Forced to see the deadly results of his own work, and he goes on this really tough journey of redemption. And Robert Downey Jr.'s casting, as our sources consistently point out, was just central. He brought that charisma, that wit, but also this deep vulnerability underneath it all.
Yeah, and you believed him.
Made a character who maybe should be unlikable just incredibly compelling.
And you can see that classic 3-act origin structure mapping perfectly onto his internal change.
Totally.
Getting captured by terrorists using his own weapons.
Yeah.
That's the catalyst. Building the Mark I suit isn't just survival, it's like the birth of his conscience.
Yeah, it's literal and metaphorical armor.
But it's interesting how the film handles its critique of the military-industrial complex, isn't it? Our sources mentioned the Pentagon's involvement. How did that kind of shape the film's message about power?
It's definitely nuanced, maybe even compromised, as the sources lay it out. Stark shuts down his weapons division, sure, big moral stand.
Right.
However, the production got significant help from the Pentagon script reviews in exchange for access to cool military gear, planes, bases. So parts of the movie effectively became, a recruitment ad or marketing for the U.S. military.
Right.
So the final message isn't really pacifism. It leans more towards, like, the privatization of power. It suggests that huge power is safer with one enlightened, responsible individual Stark than with a, bumbling bureaucratic government.
Interesting tension there.
A huge tension. And that very idea, individual power versus state control, connects right into how they started building the bigger universe.
Oh, so?
Because Iron Man also laid down those first crucial marks, didn't it? Introducing SHIELD through Agent Coulson.
Right, Coulson.
And then, of course, that game-changing post-credits scene with the Avengers Initiative,
Yeah.
setting the stage.
And then almost immediately, like a month later in 2008, we get the Incredible Hulk. And this one, it always felt like a bit of an outlier, didn't it?
Oh, completely. Such a different beast.
Yeah, really somber, fugitive thriller vibe, kind of like the old 70s TV show. Yeah. A total contrast to Iron Man's energy.
Absolutely. And Bruce Banner's story is basically an inversion of Tony's journey. Tony embraces the suit. Bruce is desperate to cure himself of the Hulk.
Right, the power's a curse for him.
Exactly. He sees every transformation as this catastrophic failure of control. And yeah, it has a complicated legacy, Edward Norton being recast, that weird co-production deal with Universal that stopped direct sequels, being the lowest grossing MCU film.
Right, it felt disconnected for a while.
It did, but its place in the canon was methodically reinforced later on. They made sure to tie it in. Links back to Captain America, nods in the Avengers, and bringing back General Thunderbolt Ross years later really cemented it.
And didn't the post-credits scene have Tony Stark show up?
It did. Tony Stark walks into the bar to talk to Ross, another brick laid, even if the film felt different.
And that brings us to what our sources call the core conflict of the whole Infinity Saga, right? That ideological tension set up right here in these first two films.
Spot on. You've got Tony Stark's kind of libertarian vigilantism.
Well,
let the brilliant individual handle global security.
right, privatize it.
Versus General Ross's state-sponsored authoritarianism, his obsession with weaponizing and controlling superhumans.
That really is the seed for so much later stuff, like Civil War.
Absolutely. It's not just character intros. These first two films establish this fundamental philosophical argument that fuels the entire MCU for years.
Okay, so as we move into the next phase, the next three films, it feels like they weren't just about introducing characters anymore. Our sources really frame them as deliberate experiments, right? Testing the limits, the elasticity of this whole MCU concept.
That's a great way to put it. They were pushing the boundaries.
Let's start with Iron Man 2 in 2010. It often gets flack for feeling like homework for the Avengers.
Yeah, that's the common criticism.
How did our sources view that? Was it basically a necessary narrative sacrifice to tee up the big team up, even if it made Iron Man 2 itself feel a bit overstuffed?
That's pretty much the analysis. It functioned almost like a backdoor pilot for the Avengers.
Right.
It brought in Black Widow, gave Nick Fury a much bigger role, dug into Howard Stark's past and legacy. But yeah, that often meant Tony's own story dealing with the palladium poisoning, his own legacy stuff got kind of sidelined.
And the villains suffered too, right? The villain problem.
Yeah, that structural imbalance definitely contributed to that early MCU villain problem. Whiplash, Justin Hammer. They were there as thematic mirrors for Tony, but they felt underdeveloped as threats in their own right. Their stories felt a bit, sacrificed for the bigger picture.
So Iron Man 2 really tested how much universe building a single film could handle.
It really pushed the limits of serialization within a 2-hour movie, yeah.
Okay, then came Thor in 2011. Wow. Talk about opening a door. This was the first huge genre leap, wasn't it?
Massive leap. Suddenly we're dealing with gods and magic. Or sort of magic.
Right. Superhero action meets high fantasy, meets Shakespearean family drama, which made hiring Kenneth Branagh seem kind of perfect.
Yeah. Absolutely perfect fit. And what's so clever looking back is how they made these mythological elements feel plausible within the universe.
How'd they manage that?
They didn't present the Asgardians as literal gods. They used Arthur C. Clarke's famous third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Ah, so they're just super advanced aliens.
Basically, yeah. Their magic is just science way beyond what humans understand. It neatly sidestepped the potential clash with Iron Man's tech focus.
Smart. And it gave us Loki, right? The first really great, complex villain.
Huge. Loki became the first truly complex recurring antagonist, and the film just blew the doors off the universe. Asgard, the Bifrost, the Nine Realms. It was a massive expansion and a successful test of whether audiences would buy high fantasy in this world.
They definitely did.
Okay.
And the last solo film before the team-up, Captain America. The first Avenger, also 2011. This one took the biggest leap, but backwards in time.
Yeah, a period piece.
Setting it in World War II felt like a really crucial decision. It let them kind of retroactively build the history of the whole universe.
Exactly. It established SHIELD's origins through the SSR, introduced Hydra as this long-term threat, set up the whole super soldier arms race idea. Foundational stuff.
And gave us Steve Rogers. Completely different kind of hero from Tony Stark.
The unwavering moral compass, as sources often call him, defined by just innate goodness. He's that scrawny kid from Brooklyn who won't back down.
Yeah.
Which makes him the perfect ideological counterpoint to the cynical Tony Stark. His heroism comes from his character before the serum.
That's a great point. And it also wove in more connections, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Introduced the Tesseract, hello, first Infinity Stone, deepened the Stark family history through Howard Stark working in that era, and crucially, set up that core relationship between Steve and Bucky Barnes.
So it's successfully tested the period piece genre within the MCU.
Absolutely, seamlessly integrated it.
So looking at those three middle films together, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America was a big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources call them experiments in elasticity.
I think the big takeaway is just their sheer versatility. These films prove the MCU wasn't just one thing. It was this flexible framework that could hold all these different genres.
Unlike other franchises, maybe.
Yeah, unlike maybe the more tonally monolithic franchises that existed before, this showed it could handle high-tech thrillers, cosmic fantasy, period war dramas, all rubbing shoulders in the same shared reality. That narrative elasticity was its secret weapon.
Okay, and all of that careful building, all those tests, it all led to the Avengers in 2012.
The payoff.
The grand assembly, 4 years, 5 films building to this, and bringing in Joss Whedon, known for ensemble TV like Buffy, Firefly. That seems like a stroke of genius in retrospect.
Oh, absolutely critical. Whedon's whole thing was balancing large casts, making sure every character had a distinct voice, mixing that snappy character-based dialogue with big action stakes. That became the Avengers tone. And really, it became the MCU house style for a long time after. He just knew how to make an ensemble work.
And what really made the movie pop, according to our sources, wasn't just Loki and the alien invasion.
No, not just the external threat.
It was the internal stuff, right?
Yeah.
The ideological clash between the heroes. Stark's cynicism versus Cap's idealism.
Exactly. The film smartly spends most of its second act just throwing these personalities together and letting them bounce off each other, letting them argue.
Yeah, the helicarrier sequence.
Right. It makes their eventual teamwork feel genuinely earned. Because they had patiently built up these characters in earlier films, Whedon didn't need to waste time on origins.
He could just dive right into the friction, the chemistry.
Straight into it.
And then that climax, the Battle of New York, our sources really praise that, don't they?
Yeah, set a new benchmark for blockbuster action. Praised for its scale, sure, but also its clarity. You could actually follow what was happening.
Which isn't always the case.
Definitely not. And it showcased each hero, showed how they learned to fight together. That iconic 360 shot really crystallizes it.
And the result was just massive.
Yeah.
Financially, culturally.
Well, astronomical. Over $1.5 billion worldwide. First Marvel film to hit the billion mark. It just shattered records and completely changed the game for blockbusters.
Prompted everyone else to try and copy the formula, right?
Yeah, every studio scrambled to build their own cinematic universe, often with pretty disastrous results. Think the DC Extended Universe struggles or Universal's Dark Universe that kind of died before it started.
Right, easier said than done.
Much easier.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the plot of the Avengers itself kind of mirrors the whole Phase 1 challenge.
How do you mean?
Well, the film's story is about getting these disparate, conflicting individuals to unite against a common enemy, right?
Huh.
That perfectly mirrors the real-world production challenge of pulling together all these different film properties, different tones, into one coherent universe. The heroes spend most of the movie bickering, failing to connect.
Like the studio trying to make it work.
Exactly. And what finally unites them on screen The death of Agent Phil Coulson.
Ah, right. Coulson.
Nick Fury uses his death, this kind of manufactured emotional catalyst, to give them that push. It's the narrative glue.
So the on-screen story of them becoming a team is like an allegory for Marvel Studios figuring out how to make the universe work.
Precisely. Coulson's death is the narrative glue. Whedon's script is the creative glue holding it all together. The Battle of New York wasn't just a win for the Avengers, it was proof that Kevin Feige's whole massive experiment actually worked.
Wow. Okay, so Phase 1's success really set a new template then.
Absolutely. Established a new dominant model for Hollywood. Stop just making standalone movies, start building these persistent cross-media worlds designed for ongoing stories.
And it completely changed us as audience members, didn't it?
Fundamentally altered expectations. It trained you, the viewer, to look for those connections between films, to always stay after the credits.
Yeah, the post-credit scene became mandatory viewing.
Right. And to invest in these characters over years, not just one movie, it created this whole new kind of fan culture built around theories, speculation, connecting the dots. Ultimately, Phase 1's biggest contribution, as our sources really argue, was creating this kind of modern, almost secular mythology.
And mythology.
Yeah. Under Feige's guidance, they built this cohesive, multi-year saga, gave audiences this persistent world, this pantheon of flawed but relatable heroes to follow. And that serialized approach, which felt more like long-form TV, that became the new language for 21st century blockbusters.
Yeah. So wrapping this up, what did this all mean for you listening?
Well, Marvel Studios, through really careful planning, some audacious gambles, and that incredibly flexible storytelling, they didn't just make superhero movies, they built a world that completely reshaped Hollywood, changed everything.
So maybe think about this. Consider how deeply ingrained this whole serialized, interconnected way of telling stories has become, not just in movies, but everywhere. And what does that mean for the future of, say, standalone films? And for our own expectations as an audience? What possibilities or maybe even limitations does this whole cinematic universe approach hold for the kinds of stories we crave now?